last week, the SEC filed a complaint against Kraken, alleging that it operates as an unregistered security exchange, broker, and clearinghouse. This is the second time the SEC has filed a complaint against the company this year. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so the SEC alleges that that Kraken is a exchange, clearinghouse, and broker-dealer for investment contracts. None of those things exist. There's no such thing as a broker-dealer for investment contracts, or an exchange for investment contracts, or a clearinghouse for investment contracts. It's entirely hollow, made up by the agency. And so we disagree, as you can imagine. We plan to fight the complaint. We look forward to telling our side of the story soon. We'll respond to the complaint. But maybe more importantly, we think it's bad for policy for the United States. From a global level, and Kraken is a global company, we're seeing countries all around the world put together fit-for-purpose regulatory frameworks for digital asset companies, for exchanges like ours, that take into account the unique risks, the unique mitigators, all of the elements that you should be taking into account when you create new law to regulate a new industry. U.S. hasn't done that. Thankfully, there are those in Congress who are working hard at that, and we applaud the effort. We're not sitting here saying, "Don't regulate us. Don't let the laws apply to us." That's not what we're saying at all. We are asking for a regulatory framework that makes sense for the crypto ecosystem, for users, for the people that use Kraken.
Obviously, you can only tell us what you can tell us, but what kind of do those next steps look like? Is there a general trajectory for a case like this, or is it kind of on a case-by-case basis? Regulation and enforcement actions in crypto they really have been top of mind, and I think it's kind of all coming to a point heading into 2024. So how do you expect to see this play out?
Well, we think by and large it already has played out. This played out in the Southern District of New York in...
Well, your fight against the SEC, Kraken's fight against the SEC.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just what I'm saying. We think that by and large this story has already been told in the Ripple case. Judge Torres in the Southern District of New York, a highly influential court in the United States, already ruled that these transactions, these on-exchange transactions, should not be considered securities transactions. We agree with that decision. It was a sound one. At this point, the SEC has had a chance to tell its story in a complaint that it filed in another district in California. Kraken looks forward to being able to tell its side of the story very soon. As these things tend to play out, there'll probably be some time, maybe a few months before we're able to do that. But we look forward to it, and we do intend to fight back.
You seem very cool about it. What's a top concern regarding the SEC lawsuits? I mean, the SEC's not been doing well this year in lawsuits with crypto companies. It's generally been a very positive year, and markets have not reacted negatively to lawsuits like this. What is your top concern?
Yeah, right now my top concern is for good policy in the industry. What we're seeing today, Congress has called regulation by enforcement. And that's because Congress has taken great strides to put new law on the books, but good policy takes time. And one of the chief complaints of those working in Congress to put new laws on the books is that there's a federal regulator out there who is taking advantage of a lack of law on the books and trying to push through novel legal theories. Kraken disagrees with those theories, and we intend to dispute them vigorously.
So how long does it stay like that? It seems, there's still a lot of uncertainty regarding regulation in crypto, but it also seems like it's come a really long way from 2013. It's nice to see regulators be engaged and have back and forth conversations with companies. So where's this all going in 2024? There are two main pieces of legislation around stablecoins and market structure. But there is also the regulation by enforcement. It's an election year. There's kind of a lot at play here. So it's been progressing. What exactly do you expect to see happen with regulation next year?
Well, I think you said it. You said that the market has largely shrugged off some of this lack of clarity. I like to see that. I certainly like to see confidence in digital assets, despite what we view as a transient situation here in the United States with regard to law. There is still very little law on the books with regard to digital assets. I really do hope that we can get meaningful congressional action soon. I think that's the best way to prevent another FTX. It's the best way to ensure that good actors are operating onshore here in the United States, where they can work hand in hand with regulators to protect their users.
Are you confident we'll see legislation in 2024?
I think you probably don't want to ask the lawyer what Congress is going to do, right? We always seem to have crazy opinions about it. But I will say that I know that Congress is hard at work on this. We've met with some members today, and we'll do the same thing throughout the week here at this as part of this conference. But I know that those who are working toward clarity, toward laws that are fit for purpose, are dedicated to it. I have great faith in those people. The question is time. Will time be on their side? Will we be able to get clarity from Congress before we get it from the courts? We're in a situation in the United States where, thanks to our separation of powers here, which is a good thing. It's why we have a constitution. Thanks to that separation of powers, we don't have a unitary government that simply goes off and does what it wants, right? We have a government that that works by way of checks and balances. And we have courts that are primed now to rule on these issues. We just got our very first ruling on these issues in the Ripple case. And as I said, I think it was well reasoned. I think most of it was level-headed. And we think other courts are going to see it the same way. So really the question is not, will Congress act? The question is, will Congress act before the courts moot the issue?
What do you make of the recent Binance settlement? Biggest exchange in the world, really, I think similar to FTX, just a big brand that to people outside of the crypto world, seems rather symbolic of what goes on in this crypto industry. So, on the surface, it looks like a negative headline. We saw the market kind of cheer that news. But in terms of how it affects the legislative process, how does a story like that weigh on Washington?
Binance is and was a momentous force in the world of digital assets, I should say. It was a momentous force in the world of digital assets. The question, I think, on a lot of people's minds now is whether that force has ceased. Are they at an end? With a monitor in place, with a court-appointed monitor in place, or a negotiated monitor in place, can they maintain their status as the world's largest? Were they ever the world's largest? Will they be the world's largest? These are all questions in the heads of those who are paying close attention to this, and you named one group of people in particular, regulators, policymakers, those who run government. There's still a question mark there. Certainly, the industry, the ecosystem, regulators, policymakers, I think are ready to move forward from the Binance settlement. That's what settlements do. They set the stage for moving forward into something better. Certainly, Binance users, I think, were relieved to find that there were no allegations that money was missing. There were no allegations of insolvency. There were allegations of violations of financial services laws, which were serious. But thankfully, I think that this is just further evidence of a bright future ahead of crypto and a digital asset ecosystem that's putting behind it a lot of its darker days.
What are the 3 things you're tracking for 2024 regarding crypto regulation?
I am primarily tracking crypto regulation from a global perspective. So in the US, certainly we're tracking the movement of a bill that made its way out of committee recently called FIT 21. It's a market structure bill that would regulate companies like ours, would regulate Kraken and Coinbase and Gemini and all the rest in the United States. In Europe, we're tracking the development of MiCA, the Markets in Cryptocurrencies Act. It's going to be a bespoke, fit-for-purpose regulatory regime for crypto companies operating in Europe. Europe moved quickly, they moved first, they moved decisively, and we don't see this sort of quibbling over legacy law that's been on the books for over a century in Europe on crypto matters. We have a fit-for-purpose regime that's been created recently. That's number 2. Number 3, same in the UK. The UK has taken a consultative, collaborative approach with the public and put together a set of proposals that will form what they call a whole-of-government approach to regulating digital assets. Kraken is licensed in the United Kingdom. We are licensed in Europe. We have licenses in the U.S. too. It's more of a mishmash in the U.S. because there is no single fit-for-purpose regime, and so what we're tracking now is the convergence, or at least the rising of each of those regimes to a global standard, which we think is going to be good for business, certainly, and also good for our users, good for the ecosystem at large, and most importantly, in an ecosystem that's growing as quickly as ours, good for innovators.